Welcome back. Welcome back. Hello, lovers. It's your girl, Kristen Live. We are live with Kristen Live and my podcast episode 2. Now, this one's going to be done a little bit differently than the other ones. As you noticed, I do not have a beautiful co star with me today. I am solo dolo, but that's okay because I actually have a topic prepared and I plan to stay on topic. I'm on a mission today to get my point across. So, we're going to start from the beginning. The beginning? Here we go. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about yesterday they had the March for Our Lives rally in Washington, D.C. It was organized by pretty much people that are interested in provoking change in gun reform. Because there hasn't been much change in gun reform. So it's kind of time for people to do something about it. So yesterday I posted something on my page about the March for Our Lives rally. I've seen the images, I've seen the videos, and I was actually very moved by the ability of these young people to get together and organize something that big. And it was just inspiring. So I put up a post that was made by some of the students from the Stoneman Douglas Marjorie Stoneman Douglas tragedy. And they made a video that was pretty much saying it's about time that somebody does something about this because nobody has yet. So enough is enough, and it's time for us to finally start discussing what are the changes that we're going to begin to implement. So I put that I was very proud of all these young students that have worked so hard to bring change to an ongoing problem. The tragedy at Stoneman Douglas High School woke up a sleeping giant. It's truly inspiring to see all the images of the crowd at the March for Our Lives rally today, and I wish I could physically be a part of it. Enough is enough. Short and simple, sweet, and to the point. I've gotten a lot of comments that have really made me think. Some of them made me sad. Some of them made me angry. Some of them made me laugh. And some of them made me scared, to be honest. So it's no secret that obviously my stance on the whole issue is I am 100% in support of there being gun reform. I believe personally that I think that there's some changes that are very reasonable that we can begin to implement. I'm not the person that's saying let's take away all the guns. I'm saying let's take away the ones that are that are very much obvious that they're the problem. The automatic, the semi-automatic, the bump stock, whatever it is, you know. And mind you, I'm not a gun collector or anything like that, but I think that somebody that is a professional in knowing about guns should be able to know which guns we can have or which guns we should have or that are functional or usable as a general population, and which guns are really not necessary. I think that should be a discussion. That should be the first discussion. And two, I also believe that there should be a mental health screening before you are able to purchase a gun. I'm 100% advocating for that. Now, social media is a really scary place. And just to give you guys a little bit of background, those of you who don't know me, and I know a lot of you do know me, I have a history in psychology. I went to school, I went to college for 7 years. I got my undergraduate in biology. So I'm pretty much pre med. Well, yeah, not pretty much. I have my pre med degree. And after that, I decided to pursue my master's in psychology. I got two masters. I did a master's in marriage and family therapy, where I specialized in couples. And I also have a master's in school counseling, so I was able to work in the schools. Um, and I'm not a practicing therapist at the moment just because I decided to pursue my entertainment goals. But that's something that can never really be taken away from me. I have that training. And with being a part of social media, the movement of being an influencer and using Instagram to be able to make a living, um, I've also noticed the people that are interacting on social media. This is something that I'm very in touch with. I'm in touch with my comments. I'm in touch with the messages that I see out there. And the psychologist in me sometimes starts to diagnose my followers. I mean, I start to see a little, okay, this person might have a personality disorder. This person might, and I'm sorry. It's just the truth. I do judge you guys sometimes. So, I mean, just be aware of that. If you don't want to be diagnosed by a therapist, then you might not want to come onto the comments in my page. But just a little disclaimer for you guys. But anyways, there's a lot of mental illness out in the world, and I think that social media has 100% exposed that to the fullest, because people are just comfortable, saying whatever they wish behind a keyboard, whether it's on a fake page or whether it's on a actual page that they're showing their face. I feel like the shame is minimal, and it's like, it's a free-for-all. So, like I said, all of those emotions are provoked when I read my comments sometimes. So, naturally, I did go the psychology route. However, one of the things that I've always been told that I should pursue was getting into law. And that's because of my love for debating. I love a good debate. I'm a conversationalist. I like to have an educated conversation. I'm also very open-minded. So if you're able to change my opinion by backing up with research and facts and give me a valid argument, I'm open to that. So I do like to every now and then provoke thought in my followers. I don't want to just post pictures and, okay, you guys are going to like pictures of my body or my face or whatever. I have a lot more to offer than that. And if you want a model that doesn't provoke change, or doesn't provoke thought, then you probably came to the wrong page, and you probably came to the wrong podcast, because obviously my podcast is going to be me talking. So, with that being said, there's been certain arguments that I just like keep hearing over and over and over again. And that made me kind of say, you know what? Let me come up with some general rules to debating on social media. And specifically, let me come up with rules against the argument of gun reform. So, you guys have inspired me to come up with these rules. So, if you're ready to hear these rules, I have them right here. Ready? Okay. Rule number 1. Laziness is not a reason to not provoke change when things aren't functional. Sounds simple enough, right? One of the comments that I got was, these marches will get them to the same place they got all people who ever marched before them. That was the most lazy comment I've ever heard in my comments. Like, what? Okay, so because certain things didn't work in the past, as far as a way to bring about change, that means let's no longer try it. But that's even flawed, first of all, because maybe certain marches didn't work, but I know that there's been other marches that have provoked change. If not, then chances are we wouldn't have been doing them. But we had to learn about marches somehow. So, I mean, come on, like the marches in the civil rights movements? No? Doesn't ring a bell? Okay, well, anyways, so just because one attempt to march didn't work in the past, that means that we should automatically no longer march. Lazy as hell. Anyway, so that's not a good argument. And keep that off of my page. Rule number 2. If you're using a conspiracy theory to justify not supporting a cause, do your research to make sure there's no proof that it's fake, the conspiracy theory. Not that the conspiracy theory is real, but that the conspiracy theory is fake. So that is what is called a lazy researcher, a person that hears what they want to hear and automatically just takes that and runs with it. They'll see a picture that may or may not have been photoshopped. They see a picture that maybe may or may not have a caption that doesn't even apply, or even, let's say that. Okay, so let me get into what I'm talking about first of all. So a lot of people are saying that the survivors of the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School shooting were crisis actors, and David Hogg is like the infamous one that everyone's saying he's an actor. And he actually admitted he wants to be an actor. So what do you know? I mean, he's a high school student. Mind you, he's 17 years old. And he wants to be an actor. So it's very, it makes sense for him to feel comfortable in front of a camera, right? He's very well spoken. And I know that's quite hard to believe for some people because, people are comparing themselves to how they were in high school. And I can compare myself to how I was in high school. And I wasn't standing on a national platform trying to provoke change in the rest of America. So yeah, I do admire that. You're either motivated by that or you're intimidated by that. And I feel like the people that are intimidated by it are trying to disprove that it's even possible for a kid to be that powerful. So now hence the conspiracy theory. So, so that's the rule. You have to make sure that it's not that it's fake, not that it's real. So by doing that, here's the first thing that I did. I said, okay, well, let me give the conspiracy theorists a reasonable chance to be able to make a point here. Let me do the research myself. And mind you, I already did the research, so I already knew this. But I decided to do the research again, just because maybe there was something that I was missing. So all I did simply was I said, proof that David Hogg went to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Simple enough, right? First thing that I found was a video of a student at Marjory Stoneman Douglas that had an actual yearbook of Marjory Stoneman Douglas. And guess who's in the yearbook? David Hogg. What do you know? Okay, so conspiracy theorists, let me ask you, how was he able to create himself in the yearbook of last year when this incident happened this year? Do you think that he planned that far ahead? Do you think that he just photoshopped his picture into everybody's yearbook that went to Marjory Stoneman last year? Is that a possibility? Or is it possible that whole yearbook in the video is fake? Okay, that's harder to believe than the possibility that the news may have manipulated the images of him being on the news before. So they had found that he actually had been interviewed by by a news anchor in California. So that's where the conspiracy theory ran that said he was actually a student in California, which there's no proof of that. All there was just him being on the news, talking about a completely unrelated incident. And they used that footage and they photoshopped the banner under it to say that it was some other shooting or whatever, and that he was talking about the shooting. But if you actually do the research to find the original news episode, it was about something else. So, stop being a lazy researcher, figure out both sides of the story. And when you do that, then we can have a valid argument. Rule number 3, loopholes to the potential solution are not enough reason to not attempt change. For many are too lazy to go through the extra effort to find a loophole. And that's just the society that we live in, and that is the absolute truth. A lot of people are too lazy to even find the loophole. So when you create a law or a solution to kind of stand in the way and separate the people that are willing to go the extra mile and the people that are not, it's a barrier, and it's going to minimize the act from happening because it's discouraging. Okay, so it may not completely prevent the issue forever, but it's going to minimize it. And when you minimize something, we're talking about lives on the line right here. So we're minimizing people from dying. And for me, that's reason enough to start implementing those barriers. This is like drugs is like the biggest example of that, because drugs are illegal, right? For the most part. And yes, people still go through their to do their due diligence to get drugs. But since it's illegal, it's harder to do that than if you could just go to Walmart and pick up drugs. A lot more people would be hooked on drugs if that was the case. But since there's fear of consequences, there's fear of going to jail, there's fear of being addicted to it. There's fear of losing. There's so many consequences that can happen when something's illegal, and the fact that there's no consequence for obtaining a gun, then everyone can do it. So there's no barrier. So that needs to change. Rule number 4. Just because you like something does not mean it should be legal or not regulated. I'm going to say that one more time. Just because you like something does not mean it should be legal or not regulated. I digress. A hobby is not enough reason to not regulate something. Just because you are responsible with your hobby does not mean that the psychopaths that are running the streets are going to be responsible. And wouldn't you like the peace of mind that the children, yourself, your family, your loved ones, friends, people in general, people are safer by regulating the hobby? What do you have to lose besides convenience? Okay. Rule number 5, keep it simple, stupid. The other solution that requires 100 more steps or billions more dollars is probably not as easy to implement as just paying attention to the main highlighted issue. So, for example, the argument that, okay, well, what we need to start doing is start putting metal detectors in all of the schools is probably not as practical or effective as regulating the guns, because you're now adding to rather than taking away. And when you add to, it's like, okay, well, where do we draw that line? Do we start putting metal detectors in churches too? Because there were shootings in church. Do we start putting it in movie theaters? Do we start putting it in the mall? For that sake, we might as well start putting them in parking garages, because, people can have guns in their cars. So, it's just like, no matter what, there's going to be a location where somebody can do a shooting. So it's not really the metal detectors that we have to pay attention to. It's the reason why we're putting the metal detectors up in the first place. Maybe if we regulate that, then we won't even need to spend a lot of money on those other solutions. Rule number 6, issues can be solved by implementing changes one step at a time. This is like the extremists are always, or shying away from this discussion, because it's like all they hear is one thing that they don't want to hear, and they don't want to have the discussion at all. It's like, okay, well, I don't want to give up my guns, so that's it. I'm totally against gun reform. I don't care about the mental health screenings that could possibly be implemented. I don't care about the bump stop being taken away. I want my guns, and I don't want to start letting go of a little bit of my freedoms, because I feel like eventually it's going to snowball and then they're going to take them fully away. So no, I'm too scared of that. And it's just kind of like, well, do you have another solution? Metal detectors? Okay, that's your solution. Whatever. It's just like, things can be solved by implementing some kind of solution. Like, give us something else that's not going to require way more money. Give us something that makes sense. You've ever heard of the word feasible? Feasible means like doable. Give me something feasible to replace your necessity for having complete control of having a gun. And then maybe we can have a valid argument. But nope, don't even want to have the discussion at all, because it makes you uncomfortable. That's a problem. Rule number 7, pointing out other issues does not ever solve the highlighted issue. So, because you can mass kill people with your car, that means that you shouldn't pay attention to any of the other issues that are causing mass killings. So it's like, uh, okay. Since cars can kill people too, that means we can't even touch guns because it's like I'm going to deflect the responsibility onto the next thing that can cause an issue. So if we take away certain guns and if we start putting the screenings and whatever, people are just going to get in the cars and whatever. But the thing is, cars actually have a lot more purpose than to just run people over. Cars get you from point A to B. There's a lot of responsible ways to use cars. There's not really as many responsible ways to use guns. I'm sorry, but guns are primarily to protect by threatening life. So it's an intimidation factor. That's what guns are. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it here. But guns are used to kill or to threaten. And wait, you're not like, what is the rule? There's a rule that it's like, don't pull out your gun if you're not willing to shoot or something like that. So it's not even really to threaten. They're used to kill. Okay. So cars aren't, the purpose of cars is not to kill. So, I mean, you can't just, I know you are, but what am I? And tit for tat, like put the blame on something else. That's not a valid argument. And the last rule, rule number 8. Threatening to unfollow will not change the content on someone's page. I need you guys to understand this. It doesn't hurt anyone's feelings either. So if you say that you're unfollowing because you don't like something that somebody's saying, I mean, that's all nice, but I mean, you really don't have to announce it. You could just unfollow, and chances are the person's not even going to notice that you unfollowed. And chances are that's the reason why you announced it in the first place, because you wanted the person to care. But you're just going to be forgotten after that post, and the next post goes up and 10 more people follow to replace your unfollow. It's just, that's showing like you're really sensitive and you should really just get out of your feelings. And if you don't like something, then just keep it moving. And yeah, I'm tired of these empty arguments. I just wish that we could do better as people. And I just, oh, sorry about that sound, but I just want to challenge. I want to challenge with this debate. If anybody, if I missed anything and anybody feels like they still have another argument to go against what my solutions were, please humor me. I would love to entertain it. I would love to see another point and, be able to open-mindedly accept another perspective. But it's just like, these arguments aren't doing that for me, and I'm getting bored. But anyways, if you guys could just follow those 8 rules, I think that, we could have really, really fun, interesting debates on Instagram. That would be pretty cool. And fun, interesting debates on maybe, I don't know, the podcast in the future. Maybe I could start taking in callers. But that's like way a little bit too advanced for me. So, I mean, well, baby steps here. But anyways, I got to get going. But I hope that this was very informative and interactive and whatever. I'm not really good at closing out shows. But bye, guys. Love y'all.